Hello, everybody. This is Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries. We have a wonderful guest on the show today, Scarlett Noble. Scarlett, say hello to the Torah Life audience.
Hi, everyone.
Tell us a little about you and your testimonial. Did you grow up a Christian?
I did. I grew up a Christian. We used to go to Calvary Chapel a lot. I know there are a lot of really popular Calvaries, especially in California. And I do distinctly recall going to Calvary Chapel all of the time, and I just would be bored to tears. And this isn't every Calvary, but the worship seemed to be kind of tame, is how I described it, and the message there just seemed to be something that it wasn't reaching, it wasn't satisfying me, and I thought it was me. I thought it growing up. I was only probably 17 at the time I realized this, but I thought it was my own spiritual walk that was lacking, and it was an awesome revelation when I finally got to understanding what it is to be obedient to God's commandments.
Well, how'd that happen? When did this happen? How long ago? And explain a little exactly what happened.
Well, I had gone to school in Santa Cruz, and anybody who's ever been to southern or to Northern California, particularly the San Francisco, Santa Cruz area, you'll you'll be able to understand that the people there are very interesting and like to be naked a lot, and a lot of gay churches. So it was a very interesting experience there, and I had gotten to be a person that I really would never ever wish for anyone. I wasn't doing holy things, even though I was claiming to be a Christian, and I was getting to be a person that I just did not like anymore. And I knew that I was walking farther and farther away from God, regardless of how many times I prayed. And so I remember talking to my parents and saying, I really need to come back home. And so I did, and I prayed that God would put me into a ministry of some kind. I never liked being in high school youth groups or anything like that. I never felt the youth was kind. That they were always kind of catty and mean, and I felt like the Christian churches were sleeping, and there wasn't anything really happening there. So I just asked for him to put me in a ministry and have me do something different. And I had, right after that, a friend who was also Christian invited me to go to this church that a coworker invited her to. And I thought, well, why not? I want to experiment with different denominations. And it was a Messianic Jewish synagogue, which was, we went there one time, and it was interesting to see them blow the shofar. I couldn't stop laughing when I first saw that, but now I think it's a beautiful thing. But it was so foreign to me. All these different things, the Hebraic dancing, Davidic dancing, and oneg, eating after each service was definitely bonus points with me. So after that, I met two people who had given me some Jim Staley videos, which I definitely recommend, Truth or Tradition and Identity Crisis. So I watched those, and I just kept on coming back to the congregation. And from there, I moved away from Messianic Judaism, more towards not having really a title or a category, just following Torah, following obedience, and following Yeshua, and understanding how to live a biblical life rather than the life of a denomination or of a sect of any kind. And that's where I am right now. And it's taken, I'm 21 right now, so it's taken a few years, definitely since early high school, that I've been kind of longing to have a deeper spiritual life, but just couldn't move past the ceiling. And finally, when I learned about, I really think that Yehovah took the scales off of my eyes and revealed these things to me in the time when I needed it. But I was able to just burst past that ceiling, and I have my own spiritual walk. It's not my parents, it's not anybody else's but my own, and Yehovah is leading me through it. So that's so
Wonderful.
far.
That's great. Now, what was the reaction from your Christian parents when you started to live this Hebraic roots lifestyle, a biblical lifestyle that was foreign? If it was foreign to you, I'm sure it was foreign to them. So, what was your reaction of your family and your friends?
Well, it wasn't too awfully different. I didn't start actually wearing the head covering until a couple months ago, but or my seat. I've been getting really into making my own seat now, which are awesome. And the not doing Christmas thing was the biggest impact, I would say. And even now, it's coming around Christmas time, and I just don't want to even go anywhere out of state or anywhere for Christmas. Even if I'm not doing it, I still feel like I just want to stay away from it. And it's funny. Last week, my I was talking to my grandmother, and she told me that I was ruining it for everybody, not doing Christmas, and that it was hurting her feelings. And I just it amazes me that people take it personally when you don't want to do things like that. I heard other testimonies that other people were saying that their families claimed it was breaking up the family, or it was just ruining things, which is so silly to me. It's like, why can't we do the biblical holidays? Why can't we celebrate Jehovah and his son Yeshua the Messiah according to how he wants us to? And it's foreshadowing of things to come, and it's just so rich and fulfilling that no way would I ever go back to doing pagan holidays that claim that they're for the God we serve, but really are explicitly stated not to do the ways of the Gentiles or the ways of the pagans. So
Sure. Now, let me ask you this: since you've been doing this, especially since you put on the head covering, how many people have called you a legalist?
um none with the head covering. However, before that, when I would talk about being obedient to the Sabbath, which is one of the first things I started doing, along with the food laws, but or the food Torah law is such a nasty word nowadays. But I was called a legalist, not by well. I spoke with the Christian pastor from the Calvary Chapel and another pastor there, and I had these questions, and I was probably 18 or 19, and I was asking them why we don't do any of these things. And the pastor was saying it was legalism and it was dogmatic, and it seemed a little bit like he was talking down to me, which it's fine. But the things that he was saying were not okay. That people who did those were again dogmatic and legalist and things of that variety. And um, my mother actually would start saying that I was acting a little legalist, which I admit I did get to be a little bit of a Torah terrorist when I first started following it. I was a little bit like, you need to learn. We've been lied to by the church. We've inherited the lies of our fathers. But and I've learned to calm down since then, and to take it easy and let Yehovah do his thing and not try to take over. But other than that pastor and my mom, which I love her, and she acknowledges that it is my own spiritual walk, and she supports me in that, but she still is a little like standoffish, you do that thing over there and I'll do my own thing. But yeah, other than that, it's been pretty good.
Isn't it amazing that the pastor there and your parents and just people in general that have been Christians for so long, good-hearted Christians, isn't it amazing how they just completely miss it?
Yeah, and I would get to the point where I would almost be blue in the face by saying all these things and explaining what I've seen and how the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, supports what the Old Testament is saying, the Tanakh. And I was thinking, like, why can't you get it? It's truth. Why can't you see it? But ultimately, I came to this point where it's like, well, I had skills on my eyes for so long that if I was at a point, even a couple months before I found obedience and learned what that meant, I was at a point that I'm sure if somebody would have said this stuff to me, I would have been probably had the same reaction that they do. So it's a waiting game, and it's a praying game, and it's a being patient and just being obedient, because the biggest testimony that you can have is not talking to other people about it, which is not a bad thing by any means, but it is living obedience, and people will see that in your character and in the fruit. Because the fruit, I mean, I heard a teaching one time that the guy said, sheep can't help but bear wool. And us as Israel and followers of the Messiah and the one true living creator cannot help but bear spiritual fruit. And the obedience yields fruit. It definitely will in many different ways. And people can see that. And I think that, to me, that right now, that is the biggest testimony.
Hallelujah. That's great. That is just wonderful. So, as a young woman who's into the biblical lifestyle here, do you have a message, not just for everyone, but particularly for other young women who maybe they're Christians, maybe they're not, but just a message in general, a biblical message for them based on your testimonial that might encourage or help them?
Yeah. It's your relationship. It's your relationship to God. And even though for the longest time I kept on trying and trying to be the Christian girl or the religious girl or relationship girl that with God that I wanted, even though I could not break past the things that I was doing that were wicked, I kept on praying. I kept on asking and seeking Him, and ultimately He will be able to come alongside you and take you to where you need to be. And that your self worth is not in the affirmation of other people, which we seek as young women. We seek the affirmation of other young men, or we seek in friends, or in like our hair, makeup, or beauty, or TV, things like that. But our affirmation is in the Creator. And so getting to have a relationship with Him and understanding who you are in Him is what's going to carry you throughout this life and ultimately carry you for the rest of eternity, like dancing in eternal glory, So it's a perseverance and endure to the end. Just run the race.
That's just wonderful. I meet a lot of people who grew up Christian from little kids and their whole lives, and they did their best to live the Christian lifestyle. But myself, I didn't wasn't in that situation. I grew up, and like you experienced in Santa Cruz, I experienced much of the world, being part of the world. And then you make this change, and people say, "Well, how can somebody change from one extreme to the other?" And
Yeah.
I just simply point to the Apostle Paul, and I say, "Look, it took him one night to change." So there you go. And I think it's a great thing. Remember, somebody really good said to me once at a congregation. They said, "It's not where you came from; it's where you're going." And
Yeah.
it's a great thing you're doing. And I thank you so much for sharing your testimony. And I pray that it'll help people. And if anyone has any comments or questions, you can post them below the video. Scarlett, do you have anything else you'd like to share before we end about your testimonial or anything, a message you want to share?
Nope, I think I got a little excited there, but it's such a man. I'm telling you, when you have a walk with Jehovah, you can't. There are definitely times when you are just not feeling it. You're just not into it. You just kind of want to be left alone. But the biggest thing is to fellowship with people who you admire spiritually and who can kind of guide you and lead you and be able to be with like-minded people. Don't think that you have to be the missionary dater or the missionary friend or anything like that. Take care of your relationship with Jehovah first, because from that is your testimony to other people. And if they can contact me, they can, like the other video, they can email me, and that's nobility808 at gmail.com.
Okay, we'll put that below the video if anyone wants to contact Scarlett. If you have any questions for her, feel free to do so. And thank you again so much for taking the time out to join us. And it's just a wonderful testimonial. And, praise Yah. That's just great.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.